This is Tyler Stansfield Jaggers of Averidon.com, bringing you episode 1 of Averidon.tv. Edits. What are we editing? Energy. We're editing energy. And by editing energy, what we're getting is a greater understanding of what energy is. 1, the idea of 0-point energy. 2, the idea of conventional versus alternative energy. And 3, magnets and how they relate to the current free energy scene. Now, I say scene because literally if you look up over unity or perpetual energy or perpetual motion, 0-point on the internet, there's a tremendous amount of interest in this stuff because what's the thinking behind it? The primary thing is everybody would love to get something for nothing, right? Wouldn't that be the best thing, to have a source of energy, which energy over time can relate to power, which is the ability to do work. Therefore, it all relates to, can you get something to do work for you for then in the case of the free energy scene, for free. Can you get something to do work for you for free? Therefore, it all has to do with economics, right? Money. Can you create money from this scene? So let's talk about the first one, 0-point. It's the idea that there is energy everywhere. It's pervasive. You have sound, anti-sound creates a null wave. It creates a standing wave. They're just canceling each other out. Doesn't necessarily mean there's no energy in the system. It's just that they're destructively interfering with each other. Okay? If you look at outer space, people say, okay, outer space, there's no energy. It's cold. It's nothing. Well, we're not really sure about that because there could be dark matter, dark energy. There could be a reason why there's a minimum temperature for outer space. And what I mean is that it never hits absolute zero in outer space, because if it did, space would probably collapse upon itself. Okay, there'd be more black holes in space. So that's highly interesting. The second one has to do with perpetual energy. Okay, perpetual motion, and the idea of alternative energy. Perpetual motion, by and large, has been discredited by the primary scientific community and the intellectual circles because of the idea of friction. That's the primary argument against perpetual motion, is that eventually friction will cause whatever you're trying to do to stop at a certain angle where, like let's say it's one of those vertical spinning things, eventually, even though it's not an odd number, eventually the friction of your system will cause the thing to stop. You can't make motion without a source of power. Okay, and then the third one is the idea of magnets. And this is interesting because this scene of I see a lot of these free energy generators relating to magnets. And on this one, the only way I can get a clear idea wrapped around it is to actually try and recreate one of these experiments. But what's interesting about it is that even if it's not free energy and they're directly tapping into a magnet in order to turn that magnetic field into electricity without another power source moving a rotor stator type situation, that has value in of itself. And so now I'm going to specifically talk about there's a set of them that are out really big. You see a kidney shaped magnet, and it's related to a coil, a thick copper coil, and that copper coil is tied into a motor, and that motor sometimes is directly going to some movement of something just to show, like a fan trying to show something, or other videos they're linking it to another motor, basically making a dynamo or generator, and that's creating electricity in order to either have an LED blink or things of that nature. Now, people might say it's could not even possible. They're all hoaxes. Well, wait a minute. This isn't secret stuff here. If you just go on Wikipedia and look up Faraday's experiments, there's an actual diagram where the idea of having a coil, and basically something that's causing an upset in a magnetic field, and a magnet is very similar to a coil wrapped around the iron bar, right? And that coil wrapped around the iron bar is now in the Faraday one, there's a battery charging one side of the iron ring, and then it's creating an electromagnetic field, and the on and off is creating electricity. But the thing is that the Faraday one on the Wikipedia, I actually tried recreating that myself by just coiling. I think I was using coat hangers. It was just like a pylon of coat hangers in a system, and literally it makes a very, very weak magnet without needing a magnet. Just you wrap a lot of copper wire in a certain way. You have it's kind of like a little steel bar as a ground, and then another kind of wand-like end to the copper wire, and you don't even need it to be magnetized or anything. It will start to pick up very, very light metal things like small pins, things like that. But things that you'd expect only a magnet to do. And you can even wear gloves, like rubber gloves, and your body's electric field isn't making it magnetized. It's just the amount of now this is just my perspective on it, my theory on why things like this happen, is that the amount of order in certain systems, that it is adds a little bit of pull or a magnetic field. Magnetism is all about alignment, okay? And so what I think is happening in that situation is that there is so many pylons of the same thing, is that it's creating an ordered system, and then that overwhelms the very, very light mass of the small pins. Now let's take into account these magnetic generators that we're seeing for this free energy generators that are popping up. This is interesting to me because they're using a very, very powerful kidney-shaped neodymium magnet, and those are extremely strong magnets, oftentimes used in hard drives, and one guy actually even has a video showing how he takes it out of a hard drive to get these very strong magnets. So that's a neodymium magnet is in of itself a very, very ordered rare earth system in it itself. Like if you did the iron filings test to see it, you'd see a beautiful shape just showing up, just from how this magnet is affecting the system around it. And what interests me is how the thick copper wire coil is placed not around the magnet, but it's in front of it, and that is very similar to the Faraday diagram that I saw. And so what I definitely think that's worth a follow-up experiment, which you will see on our site soon. That's interesting to me. Now, what you're seeing on the screen right now isn't any of those things. It's actually the rough concept I have right now for the core of the Overidon entropic absorption generator or collector. Okay, whichever one. We're still working on the title here, But the idea is based on the radiometer. Okay, based on my experiments with the radiometer is an extremely interesting thing, but it has no torque. It's not a generator of by any stretch of an imagination. But, and I say but because I've seen videos on the net of people doing real deep dive experiments into radiometers, how they work, really what's going on, and is the radiometer a be-all end-all, or are there different grades of radiometers depending on the internal pressure of the things? Now, this is where things really get exciting for me, because in previous videos I was showing that radiometer can spin in their freezer. It spins counterclockwise in the freezer, and it spins clockwise in the sun. If you add a mirror, it's going to go even faster. So fast that you can barely even see the thing. It's going so fast, or record it. And so I'm thinking, well, what if we intentionally created a bad radiometer? And I think, well, that's the stupidest thing I heard. Why would you want to build a bad one that barely even moves with a lot of heat, or barely even moves in an extremely cold system? And the thinking behind it is okay, maybe it's not a bad radiometer in the sense that it's not going to work, but a radiometer that requires much more torque in order to spin. And the reason why is because it's heavier. It has to spin a heavier object, sub-object transversal, okay? And that's what you're seeing right now. And what's happening is you're just seeing a glass jar, and inside it is the transversal core, where you have the radiometer, traditional vanes, spinning due to either, in this little sketch, it's sketch diagram, it's spinning clockwise because it's guessing it's in a hot system, okay? And the difference between a radiometer and the Overdon entropic acceleration generator, absorption, sorry. Oh, that's right. Acceleration was a thing based on wind. But the OAG, the reason why that has difference from a radiometer is if you look at the bottom, it's actually spinning something at the bottom. Okay? And the whole thinking behind this core, okay, the whole thinking is, can we come up with a better way of creating electricity than boiling water? And now, people who are in the mechanical engineering field, they probably, already catch that right off the bat, because they know solar panels right now don't generate much electricity overall for the whole nation state. But coal does. Oil does. Natural gas does. Nuclear energy does. And all those systems, what they do is they take heat, they boil water, either through combusting gas or burning coal or combusting natural oil, okay, or heating up nuclear rods in order to boil water, and that steam, it spins a turbine, and that turbine spinning creates torque, and then that eventually creates that dynamo action for generating electricity. It's all about spinning. All the OAG is trying to do, the whole concept on why I'm researching this, is because I think it is cost effective and profitable to directly convert heat or hot air into electricity. And the radiometer in the previous video proves that hot air can create some minute torque, and all the OAG is trying to do is to see if the system that makes a radiometer spin could be powerful enough to make a heavier system which requires more torque to spin. It actually doesn't matter if it's a longer ramp-up period. And the reason why is because as long as you can get a high torque system to spin at all, the process is going to keep going. So this actually could be used in a coal power plant. It could be used lots of places, even in a natural gas. I mean, so we're not talking about reinventing the wheel completely here. I'm just saying, skip water. Water is corrosive. Water is hot. Water is sometimes explosive in the steam form because of the oxygen and hydrogen. If it gets heated into a plasma state on accident, like a nuclear facility or something, it's an actual risk that they have to take out these huge insurance plans on. But if you could skip the middleman of having water, you could decrease the cost of a lot of these systems. Not to mention attempting to directly extract heat from already hot places like California desert, Arizona, things like that. So we're just setting the stage for future discussion, future experimentation, and I definitely hope you enjoyed this short video here, and definitely look forward to reading any feedback, hearing any feedback, and thank you so much for your time. That was Veridon TV, Episode 1, Edits.